Welcome to episode 12 of The Hills Have Nerds, the only podcast that guarantees there's an ultra rare in every episode. Gather your booster packs, sleeve up your holofoils, put your trap cards face down, ready your commanders, search your decks for energy, place a basic Pokemon on your bench, untap that mana, and discard down to hand limit, because today we're talking about trading card games. Exodia! Hey, welcome to Hills Have Nerds. Thanks for joining us. Today, our topic is trading card games. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and with me as always is Aaron.
Yo.
Cody.
Hello.
Lee.
Hello.
And we got a special guest, Thomas.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom with Try Card Games on YouTube. Good to be here, man. Good to see some old friends and good to be able to sit with you guys and talk about some of my my daily life that I've been doing recently, involved in trading card games and collectible trading card games.
Awesome. We're glad to have you, Thomas. I'm glad. I know we've been trying to do this episode for a little bit. Tom's talked to me about it several times. Thomas or Tom? I know you.
Either one. There's people who call me Tom.
I called you Thomas forever. Thomas and I used to work together. That's how we met. Now he does the YouTube stuff, and we started the podcast thing. So we decided Thomas on and come down here and talk about trading card games, which I don't have a huge history of. And I know, Lee, you're not the most well-versed in.
Nope. Yeah, me and Aaron's played a couple, so.
Yeah.
I'll help y'all out a little bit. I'll learn y'all some things, as I used to say.
I know what cards are.
Yeah.
Cards.
I know it's cardboard. It tastes funny.
It's rotten.
Cardboard crack.
I know they're expensive.
That's why they call it cardboard crack. It's addictive, too.
Yeah.
You can't burn magic cards because they're of the devil.
All right, but first, we want to. I want to do a couple things, and then we're going to get into Tom. We're going to ask Thomas about some nerd stuff, get to know Thomas a little bit, then do our what are we playing, what are we reading, what are we watching.
Yeah.
First, we got a review. We got a review. Our first actual person that's not Pat gave us a review.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks,
We love
Pat.
No, but we got a review from Steve McGillivray. And
Sorry if we butcher.
yeah, I apologize, Steve, if I say your name wrong. So this, if you leave us a review, we may read it on the air. If you send us an email, we may read it on the air. Get your thoughts out there. However heinous and vicious and sexual they may be. And Steve's are none of those things, which is unfortunate, but it's still nice. So Steve says, "What a great podcast. Jumped here after hearing Josh on Critical Encounters as the podcast sounded right up my street. Have not been disappointed. Started from episode 1 and have just finished the spooky special number 1. Really great stuff. So much similar likes to mine. 2 gripes so far. Absolutely tongue-in-cheek, by the way, Steve adds. He's not really mad at us. Number 1 is soccer. No, with followed by a winky emoji. Thanks, Steve. That's very whimsical. Also, it is soccer because, that's what we call it here in America's always right. And number 2.
Seems legit.
Yeah. USA.
It's football because you actually play with your feet. Anywhere else.
2. No, football involves kicking it sometimes. Running
Playing with
into
your
and
hands.
away from each other as fast as you can for 60 minutes the rest of the time.
Oh, so
I
rugby's
only-
football.
I only kick when I play football.
Yeah.
Either football.
Even when
Just can full
Hold on,
time.
Steve's got more to this.
Okay.
All right, number 2, he has his second gripe. In the miniatures episode, that was the episode featuring Jay where we talked about wargaming on a budget, we didn't mention the best one, bolt action. Said the irony of that was he was painting his Fallschirmjäger. Fallschirmjäger.
Gonna send us something and you'll stop.
I said it 3 times.
He did it on the day with Ludacris.
I thought he was turning into the chef from the Muppets.
I think this is German. Fallschirmjäger. Yes, I think it's German. While listening to the episode. Painting is great fun, and I'm no expert. The sense of achievement I get, though, is real. Well, we're glad you enjoy that, Steve. And you should share with us some of the stuff you've painted. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, we all posted some of the stuff we painted at that
Yeah.
episode. They all looked horrible, but we all painted them.
People
Not
should be
judges.
able to share pictures on the Facebook comments now. I activated that to where people can like share pictures of their collections or what games they're playing or stuff like that. You know, private parts, whatever you want to share.
Whoa.
Yeah. At least making arm motions over here. Steve goes on. Looking forward to catching up on the episodes and hope the show runs as long as you guys enjoy it. The last episode I heard, you were in 3 countries. Hopefully, I'm your first in Scotland. Take care, guys. I'll now remember fondly the time I was flying home from a trip to Denver in '94 and flew over the Appalachians. All the best, Steve. I should have read that with a Scottish accent.
Yeah, that
Just
would
really made sure Steve never listened to another episode.
It wouldn't have been offensive at all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
But yeah, thank you very much, Steve.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that.
Awesome.
We are now in 8 countries.
That's awesome.
He may have been the first in Scotland. I don't know.
We had a UK listener before, but I don't know. It tells us where it is in the UK, and I don't know what the hell the township name was. It'll tell us, what different townships from there when I look at it, and it Worcester, Fellow Schmigleyshire, or something like that. I don't know where the hell that is.
Dude, it's so weird to me that that's not my Steve from Scotland.
We have a different Steve.
I watch his Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that has to be Steve, and it's not.
Maybe, yeah, no, this is a Critical Encounters guy. The Critical Encounters crew, absolutely incredible. I just recorded another episode with them. It might be out before this one, might be out after. I don't know what the release schedule's for that
By
stuff.
my experience, everybody in Scotland is named Steve.
2 people from Scotland.
It must be all of
They're
them.
both 100% of the people we've encountered from Scotland are named Steve. Yep. But yeah, we're in 8 countries now, and you know what, Steve, you're my first, and I always have a special place in my heart for my first. The first cut is the deepest.
Wow, you
That's
didn't
hot.
make that weird at all.
Huh?
You didn't make that
That's a
weird
very
at all.
special moment between me and Steve, and you leave us alone. All of us and Steve. Steve has touched all of us
That's hot.
deeply.
I don't know.
Thank
Come
you,
on,
Steve.
come on our Facebook.
Steve actually comes on our Facebook quite a bit.
Thanks for coming on our Facebook, Steve.
Do I need to get the doll? Like, where did he touch you?
Right here, Cody, right here in the heart. Right here in the heart. Okay, let's move on. Thank God we're never getting another review again.
After you
No
read
one's ever going
after you read it, somebody's listening to us. They're typing the review, and as we went,
like
they're
hit
starting to hit
whips.
backspace
They didn't even hit backspace. Control A. Delete.
through the computer out the window.
The first part, leave a review, we'll read it like, oh, let me go leave a review. And then at the end, I'm like, hell no. None of this. I don't want these people to know anything about me. All right. Thank you again, Steve. And so we've got Thomas here with us. So Thomas, what we like to ask our guests is, tell us a little bit about like your nerd history. What qualifications do you have to be here at the round table of nerddom? What fandoms are you into? What got you into nerdistry? Tell us about yourself, Thomas.
No, I'll see myself out. No. So,
About this nerd shit.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a stranger outside the room. But no, again, thanks for having me on here. I guess the start of where my nerddom started was whenever I was really young, me and my dad would watch old VHS tapes of the original Star Wars. And we'd watch, the way that it should be watched, which is 5, 6, or 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. That's the way I like watching it because that's the way I grew up watching it. But that's where it started with that. And then whenever I was like really young, as most kids did, they were like, "Ooh, shiny cardboard, give me." So I started out with Pokemon at first. Then I got into Yugi-Oh with a few of my buddies, my buddy Jeremy. We started out like that on the playground, playing playground Yu-Gi-Oh, and then I kind of dropped it for a while. And then whenever high school started, I really got into Magic. I've been across several different card games out there as of right now. So I've kind of grew up with a lot of those, and then I played a lot of my 2 main in high school were MTG, Magic the Gathering, and Yu-Gi-Oh. Then whenever I hit college, I still stayed into Magic a little bit, but didn't really stay into Yu-Gi-Oh a whole lot. And then I graduated from college and did my master's and everything back here in the hills, and I had met some of the funniest and greatest people that I've known in my time. My buddy Aaron and a few others. Another Aaron.
You're welcome.
But yeah, him too.
You're very much welcome.
He said great people. I
And,
know he's not talking about you.
And then
You little goblin.
How dare you?
Just look for any excuse to call you a goblin.
That seemed rude and slightly uncalled for.
I've been called worse as well. So
I would never call you a goblin. You're the guest.
well,
The game.
still behind my back. But no, as of like last year, that's when I really started picking up into competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. And let me tell you, playground Yu-Gi-Oh and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh are two completely different beasts. There's a ban list every 4 times a year, every quarter of the year. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with if you're going to do a lot of competitive, seeing Yu-Gi-Oh or any. So that goes for any card game, really.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, Thomas. And then when we're going to talk about some competitive card games and that edge to it and all that when we get on. So you can kind of school us on that because I have no idea.
Yeah.
I played a little bit back in the day at the Toys R Us,
Yeah.
and when I say back in the day, I was like 12.
Yeah.
You know? So that's my last competitive. But first, and when we do this, and this, we're thinking of some things, so we'll see how this goes. But this is, we're doing our what are we playing, what are we reading, what are we watching. We're going to try to condense this, because sometimes we go a little long. So let's give the abridged versions for everybody. So Thomas, you're new here. So we talk about what nerd media are we consuming? Are we playing anything, any certain games or whatever? Or?
So, watching stuff. I'm a big Chainsaw Man guy. I love the anime. Still watching a little, trying to catch up on Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer. Those are a couple of my favorites in terms of like just watching content. Also, if YouTube wise, I don't. In terms of like YouTube and everything else, I don't really watch like I watch more YouTube. That's the kind of media I consume with like MBT, the Zeef, Decade, Team Samurai 1X. Those are like the pinnacle of your Yugi tubers and like what you need to like. They'll help you learn stuff. Joshua Schmidt, all those kind of other guys too.
Okay.
Another, a different Joshua.
If he's a Yugi tuber, I certainly am not a Yugi. I mean,
and-
you know what? I might be. I don't know. I
and-
dabbled in college.
And I guess in terms of like reading stuff, there's nothing really nerdy. But one of the books that I've been really reading a whole lot recently is Sun Tzu's Art of War. Because whenever you get into a competitive card game, which we'll get into a little bit later, that it's like circular thinking. You really have to use that way of circular thinking to even try to.
You're
fix
reading
somebody
the
out.
art. You're reading Sun Tzu's The Art of
Yes.
War to prepare for like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments.
Yeah, because a lot of that circular thinking, it kind of goes in tandem with a lot of the stuff that you actually do in the game. Because like one move that your opponent does may be a fake, or like they might be just trying to bluff you, and then the next moment it's like, okay, I'm gonna start doing the crackback and try to win the game, and then it's like, oh, guess what? I have a trap. I have
So
something
we're
for
going to
that.
Princess Bride this and be like, I know that you know that I know
Yeah.
that you did this.
That's
So
And that's actually how it works.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. That's pretty sick, man. That's pretty cool. All right, Lee.
I've been watching nothing really. Let's see. I've been playing Elden Ring. I did an Unga Bunga run where you use your strength, and I just finished that up. Absolutely
You
loved
did
it.
on Twitch, right?
Yeah, I adore that. So I've been playing that. Finished it up on Twitch, and probably gonna start Chrono Trigger. Actually, I've beaten Chrono Trigger before, but I freaking love it. So I need to get back into retro. So I'll probably be playing that, and then I've been playing a little bit of Phantasy Star, working on a video for that, and what else was there? Listening to Service Games, the audiobook about Sega Genesis Sega's rise and fall in the video game industry. So that's good.
Fair enough.
Cody.
I started reading the Never-Ending Story, actually.
Oh, that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, it's just going to keep looping. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm going to do.
That's exactly what I told him.
Honestly, growing up, I
It's a
didn't even
good
know there
job.
was a book.
Man, it just feels like it never
Is it-
ends.
Does it have the big cool cover on it, like the?
And this one's a newer one, so it's got like the slip cover, but it does have the two snakes actually eating each other, and the inside is actually printed in the two different colors.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like a purple or like a magenta more every time it's talking about Bastion reading the book, and then it's in like a light green every time it's talking about Atreyu's adventure.
Have you heard the voices yet?
I mean, I hear voices every day.
Have they asked you to name the princess?
Yeah. But
You're like Politics and Gerber.
I'm just going to go
Call Steve. Steve will know.
tells the Symphonia, like, I'll name it, and then just cut off. Nothing.
Secret to the Krabby Patty formula.
Yeah, playing wise, I'm still on my Final Fantasy kick.
Yeah.
So,
Aaron?
So, the only thing I've done recently is went to Lexicon.
Okay, cool. Tell us about
Yep.
Lexicon.
So, it was actually a blast. It was a board game convention they had down in Lexington, and it was in a hotel. It was huge, a lot bigger. We went
Lexington, Kentucky.
Lexington. It was specified. That's true.
Yeah.
It was a huge event. They had tons of tables where you can just sit down and play games, and they had like little cones you could set up for looking for players, so you could have people come over, and they
I
had
love Lexicon.
tons
so
of
much.
demo games and a lot of vendors. We learned to play 2 different games down there. We played some ourselves. I went with a big group. We learned to play one called Outrun the Bear, where, surprise, surprise, the point of the game is to outrun the bear. Or, the way the guy put it, outrun your friends.
Yeah.
So, and it played on a hex. You played cards, and you were moving to get to your car before the bear got you. So, and you could help. You could play cooperative, or, like always, you can. Sometimes the cards allow you to push your friends backwards while you go forward. So, and we played Blood on the Clock Tower, which plays very similar to the werewolf or mafia kind of thing.
That's cool.
It did have some cool twists to it, such as the dead could still play, unlike werewolf, where you're just dead, you're out.
Friend of the show, Morgan, Morgan Lessons, shout out to Morgan. He's bought that game. He's been wanting to try to get some people to play it.
It was actually a lot of fun. We played with like 12 people, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. And then, like I said, I went to the convention to, you got to buy some swag.
Yeah.
So I went to a group that was there called the Gray Loft. I give them a shout out. They had I bought a sweet hat. That black hat's got a little dice on it. I was sitting over there. Yep.
I'll take a picture of that, and
Yeah.
we will put that on the
let's-
Facebook.
Yeah, let's not put that on my. Let's get a different picture that's not on my messy.
Nope. Putting this one.
Oh.
The one I just took.
I
Yep.
have spoken.
Should clean your damn house.
You're not the only one who's done that.
Anyway,
Thanks,
more
Mom.
about Lexicon. Hi, Lynetta. Sorry, I just cursed.
And so we had there was another group there called the Leafy Labyrinth. She did custom made dice, and they were fantastic, beautiful dice. And she actually does special orders that you can actually call. You can message her on her website, which I assume we'll probably get all the links there for them.
Yeah, we'll throw some links in. None of these people were sponsors, right? Nobody said, hey, we'll give you somebody to say
No.
their name. Well, I don't know if we will share the links then.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Yeah,
Hashtag
hashtag-
could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
Raid Shadow Legends still
Yeah.
knocking the door down. Guy hiding behind my car the other day. Huh?
But we had those, and I bought a T-shirt from a group called Death by Dice, and it was really cool. I bought a shirt that had a dice roll and it said "Crit 'em all."
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and
Nice.
they had some really cool designs with skulls with dice and left their mouth and their eyes and
Sick.
stuff. That was like really.
It's nice.
It looked
Brutal.
like
It's edgy.
it looked like metal band shirts, but with dice. And I was like, I almost got one of those, and I was like, I kind of like that Crit 'em all shirt though.
Yeah.
So, and they had a really good, reasonable price for those, so it was really nice. Yeah, we had a fun time.
Oh, yeah, Lexicon's great. I taught Call of Cthulhu down there a couple of years, and then we did Smash Up one day down there. It's been a while since I've been able to go, but it was always a real great time.
They had tons of people. They had a place where a guy was demoing a new video game he was testing out called the Wizard's Library, I believe is what it was called. I should have took more pictures and remember because I can't remember things. But
You have some pictures we can throw up on the.
I do have a
Okay.
few pictures.
Throw those up there.
And they had a Ghostbuster group that was selling like Ghostbuster cosplay stuff that they had made, and there was a
Did they
Cobra.
bust any ghosts?
I don't know if they did there. I didn't ask.
No.
But they also had a group that was a G.I. Joe, and they were just like Cobra Commanders and everything. But it was fantastic.
Nice.
And they always do their heads and tails competition where they flip a coin and you choose heads or tails. And if you get whatever the coin flip, you stay in. They whittle it down, and whoever at the end of it gets this huge mass amount of like things that vendors have donated and a huge thing of board games.
Pretty cool.
So, they put a lot of love into Lexicon. I know this year I saw that they posted this is the largest Lexicon they've had.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, this year went up. So.
Yeah, the hotel was booked. So
Oh yeah, it's in that Clarion or Claremont or I don't remember. Either way, I digress.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's over on we'll say it was on Leestown Road last time.
But all right, so let's get into it.
Yep, let's get into our main topic. So our main topic today is trading card games, or TCGs. And so we're going to do a little bit of a terminology rundown with the guys here at the table. And we're going to talk about what are trading card games, a little history of trading card games, what what gameplay aspects of them set them apart from other types of card games or board games. And then, are they worth it? Some of the competitive aspects of them, because there's a huge competitive scene around trading card game, or around trading card games.
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to think of like trading card game battles is what I was trying to say. But
I just want Thomas to answer. What is the heart of the cards?
Oh, that's when you are you're literally running on empty whenever you're playing like a card game, and you have one card off the top of your deck that you can draw, and you draw it.
It's called the top deck.
The top, yeah. Our RNGs just take the
I
wheel.
want to know why Yugi-Oh top decked every season.
Yeah. All right. So some common terms that we may use through this. We'll be using TCG, which means trading card game. We're going to use CCG, which means collectible card game, and those are interchangeable. They mean the same thing, and we'll talk about why you use one versus the other here in a little bit. Shout out to Wizards of the Coast for why that happens. Your hand is the cards that you have in your hand. Anybody who's played poker or anything, if you draw cards, you have those. Those are your cards you function with. That's your hand. Your deck is your deck of cards that you've built to play with.
Or library.
Yep. Or
Magic.
Yeah, library is a term used in Magic. MTG, speaking of Magic, we may say MTG. That means Magic the Gathering. That is a type of trading card game. That's the OG trading card game. We'll talk about them a lot.
Trap card.
Yeah, we got Trap card on it. I mean, this list I wrote down is just
Magic.
kind of...
Yeah, there's a ton.
Yeah.
There's so much terminology in each game that it's just head spinning.
Yeah.
So I start going to specifics in each game because they
Yeah.
they each use the same system but different names because of copyrights for each of them, and it's because I mean mana and Force of Will uses stones.
Yep.
Yeah. So we talk about like resources and things like that. It's just the way you play your cards. You have to do something with a resource to get a card down for the most part, for some of them. And then the big one are these acronyms: the CCG, TCG, MTG, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all this stuff. And we'll try to what I think we may do, instead of just doing a terminology rundown here with everything,
Do it as we go.
is just as you go. If you say something that is like acronym-esque or something, we try to take a pause and explain that, like the pop-up
We
video.
can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
All right. So next, how are these things different from other card games? So we know these involve cards. How is Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh? So Thomas is our Yu-Gi-Oh expert. How is Yu-Gi-Oh different from, I don't know, Marvel Champions that we play?
Personally, I don't really have a whole lot of experience with Marvel Champions, but I do have a lot of experience with other card games like Force of Will and Magic the Gathering. With Force of Will and Magic the Gathering, you have something that I like to call a resource system. And you don't really, and that's like...
So we're not talking about Yu-Gi-Oh specifically. I'm talking about like trading card games in general.
Oh, okay.
How do they differ from like...
I'm talking about LCGs,
Yeah.
like living card games?
Yeah, how would a TCG differ from an LCG? So an LCG is a living card game. How would that, or like how does a trading card game differ from like a deck builder or Dominion? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. What makes TCGs their own genre of game? Is what I'm asking.
That's an awful deep question. But personally, I think the difference between like a TCG and like a tabletop card game...
There is a correct answer, and if you fail it...
There is a correct answer.
The trap door underneath your seat.
I'm raising my hand. I want the
You're
answer.
just waiting to just like, I triggered his trap.
Trigger my turn. Not.
He's gonna pull a
No,
Uno
but
card.
what to you? How does a TCG differ from like a deck builder?
Man, I feel like the crowd's a lot bigger for the TCG stuff. Like there's like a more competitive scene. I'm not saying there's like other competitive games like that or other board games like that aren't competitive, but there is like a big scene for each card by
110%.
themselves.
Yeah.
There's go ahead.
No, I was just saying there's these TCGs are ever changing and they're not self-contained.
No, there's always new support that's coming out. It's like whenever you buy a tabletop game, there's usually you have to buy like expansions and stuff. It's similar in a way to some of these other card games because they'll have new sets every month or so. There'll be Like for example, this end of this month, there's a new set that's coming out for Yu-Gi-Oh. Magic has like the set block style stuff. I don't know what they do now. I know it's like 2 or 3 every block now or something like that.
They went from like every 4 months to
What's a
every
block?
3 months, I think.
So
Block. That's a terminology. What's block mean?
Oh yeah, so that's like there's like a sect of sets that a card game will come up with, and then
He's about to fall asleep. Please stop. Sorry.
I'm just going to smack him.
We're recording. So normally we record and we have a table. I'm just going to give people a little idea of what we're... Normally we have a table we sit around. Well, the last episode, the anime episode, if anyone listened, the audio is absolutely dog poop. That took a lot of control.
Such a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good... I mean, it's not terrible. It's not unlistenable.
Yeah, I had a blast recording it, and it had a lot of good information in it, and it was great. It was just not very good audio.
The audio's not great. We're trying to fix that. We're working on ways to fix that. We got limited funds, people. You know, I can't go out and buy a big thing of microphones.
Send
It's
us
just
money,
not.
send
We
us
do what
money,
we got to
send
do.
us money, send us money, send us money.
No. Do not. No.
Support your local podcast.
But we normally record with a table. But today we have
Sell it.
we don't have a table. We've decided we all have our chairs gonna pushed around. Just each other. We're gonna like 7-headed monster leaning in and leaning away.
We're literally just 5 guys sitting around a can talking.
Pretty much. But that's
give you $10 if you're talking to his can.
Sing into yonder can and skedaddle. That's why Thomas is here. No, but so anybody else like how do why is a TC what makes a TCG different from another card game? Aaron's raising his hand.
Me, I know. The biggest thing is a random booster packs that you pull out. So unlike a board game, you know what you're getting in that board game, and you're going. And an LCG, when you buy a pack with an LCG, you know what's in that pack. Yeah. You know what you're getting from your character.
We're both getting the same thing out of the pack. You buy it, I buy the same thing.
Unlike a TCG, they sell booster boxes, which have booster packs. They usually standard, I think, is what? 20.
It depends.
Varies on the set. So it's like
sets,
if you do like subsets, which is another thing we'll get into here in a minute. There's like 5 cards per pack, but on your core sets or your main sets, those are like 9 for Yu-Gi-Oh, 15 for Magic.
Yeah, Magic and Pokemon.
Pokemon's 10 or 11.
Is it 10? I thought it was 15.
I don't think it's 15 anymore.
They changed so much, and but you buy you're getting random cards, and within that pack you usually have so many commons.
Gambling.
100%
children.
gambling.
It's gambling for children.
I just heard the same conversation at the gas station.
You can't win if you don't play.
Yeah. I mean, just a bunch of people standing around, hot box of Red Bulls and playing.
Dude, that's exactly what those draft booster nights at Friday Night Magic was. You trade that with like the Piggly Wiggly down the road at 7-Eleven, and it's the exact same thing. It's different drugs, same high.
That's why it's called cardboard crack.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. I always heard people talk about, they're like, man, I've played card games, they're eating up my money. I'm going to switch over to drugs so I can save some money.
110%, man. Dude, this crap is expensive.
Oh yeah.
And you're always hoping for that one pull, right? Because you know the rarer cards are usually the better cards to play with sometimes.
We also don't condone drugs, by the way.
I mean, what was it on the anime episode? We're not your real dads. We can't control what you find. We can't control what you find under a bridge. Don't do drugs, but if you wanna,
no.
That's not how this works at all.
There needs to be.
You don't know what you need. We do. Let me tell you.
We need Travis to pop in here. The Hills Have Nerds does not condone drug use of any kind.
Just funny.
But yeah, it is very well just like gambling when you get into those packs and you're just
110%.
Because you know there's a rare in there. I think do you know the breakdown, Thomas, of most of the the Yu-Gi-Oh?
I can tell you for Pokemon because I actually listened to this on a podcast the other day. So Pokemon in Japan used to have when you bought a box, they guarantee there were 2 ultra rares in that box. And those are ultra rares the pull ratios. Pull means to pull a certain card type from a pack, open a pack, pull cards out of it. Yeah. Ratios are the ratio of very common cards to rare cards in the pack. Ultra rares are you you know what the hell ultra rare means.
Yeah.
So in Japan, you were pretty well guaranteed you could pull like 2 ultra rares out of a box, something like that.
Yeah.
But when WOTC, Wizards of the Coast, which we talked about Wizards of the Coast a lot in our or tabletop games episode 2, when they started publishing Pokemon in the U.S., now, and I might be wrong here, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong. This was my understanding from what I listened to. There is no guarantee. Like, you might get a box that has 10 in it.
Really?
You might get a box that has none. Like, there's no like guaranteed ratio there. Like, you're not. If I buy a booster box, I'm not guaranteed to pull a rare card out of it. I mean, I'll get a rare, but I'm not guaranteed to get that like really
That
special.
full
Get a special card out of it.
Yeah.
That might be the case, but I have never seen a box miss one. Now, doesn't mean that it's not guaranteed,
Yeah.
but
A case is 6 boxes.
Depending on what card game it is, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! It's 12, right? It's
12?
It's 12 boxes per case.
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
they
The
have
standard
a fewer
is,
number of packs. in
Yeah,
their
there's only
boxes.
24 packs.
Oh yeah.
box.
The standard for like Magic Pokemon is
It's like
is-
it's like 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping up with all this.
Yeah. All the-
Makes sense.
Write it down, get the wild.
so if the standard's 12 boxes and you gotta say the odds of
I've heard this word problem before.
yeah the Joe Schmo. Have you seen the Joe Schmo from Scott Steiner? He's like, you got 66 and a half odds.
That's no trouble for you.
So we've dropped some names of card games, and 3 of them we've really dropped: Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh. And those are the big
big
three in trading card games, collectible card games, whatever have you. But there's some more out there. So we've talked about Lorcana on the podcast, right?
Yep.
So that's Disney's foray in the collectible card game. We
Which
talked about,
Been very hot. Out the gate.
and we played. It's fun. I mean, it's.
I like
It's decent.
It's Magic the Gathering with Disney characters and a little bit of a different mana system.
Yeah.
It's meh.
It's not really Magic the Gathering, but it's
It's missing the stack.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
it can't.
Yeah.
The stack is
it's not as
response
complex.
windows.
It would be closer to Pokemon.
Yeah,
But-
I
yeah,
guess.
'cause
I don't know.
The thing with that is like Magic the Gathering, you have the reaction time. Like
That's
you have
the stack.
the stack.
Yeah.
You have reaction times because
Between each.
it gets really complicated when you go into
So what is
that.
the stack in Magic the
The
Gathering?
stack is I'm going to play a creature, and whenever I say I'm playing this creature, a window opens that if I'm
Counter
playing
spell.
against Thomas, he can now counter this creature with or do something else. He just has a chance to respawn before the creature hits the playing field.
Yeah.
And then
And
that
then-
opens another window.
Whatever he does, I now have a chance to respond, and it goes like that until we both decide that there is no response, and then it starts at the most recent card. It's like laying your hands out.
They start resolving.
Yeah,
It
so
starts
the one
from the
on top,
Down.
and then works down.
See, I remember learning to play Magic the Gathering, and when we started actually understanding the rules, it was like, I'm playing this. We like look around the table. Which one of you mother lovers?
Who's on blue?
Yeah, who's countering this? Who's
I mean, it was an
you gonna
LCG.
let this happen?
I mean, if you're playing with
Yeah.
more than 2 people,
Oh, yeah.
like I'm
Like
playing
Commander,
this
yeah.
creature, and then somebody's sitting like Thomas can be like, okay, well, in response to you and doing that, I'm gonna burn Josh for 3, just because.
Just because I can.
Because technically the card he has can play in response, but it's not his turn, so he can't activate a stack with it. He has to wait for a response window.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the same thing.
Easy card games to figure out and
Easy
understand.
game, baby game.
Easy game, baby game.
I remember playing. It was an LCG, but the most complicated one was Game of Thrones.
Martells, man.
Game of Thrones
Cool.
had just it was a spreadsheet with a flow chart of like, here's the reaction times that you have to certain
We
cards.
definitely,
We're
as,
like,
as
oh,
much as we
geez.
play Marvel Champions, and then we've been hanging out with Critical Encounters, and then Nelson from Nelson All Over Cards is coming down to our game store on tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Actually, he's a Marvel Champions YouTuber, and he does all kinds of card games. He's coming down tomorrow. Nathan met him at a con, so he's coming down. So we're, as much as we do that, we need to do an episode on LCGs, but that's not what this episode is. So more different games, more different types of TCGs.
Oh yeah.
What are we talking? So we mentioned Lorcana. What else we got?
Digimon.
That
Digimon.
one's picking up a lot of
Piece.
traction. I know we mentioned Force of Will earlier.
Force
That's,
of Will.
that's That one's not as popular as it was because it kind of fell through.
Yeah,
after
it came
Honestly,
out
whenever
years.
it came out, it shot up. And it,
Oh yeah,
it hit like number 7, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, it was
wow.
a cheap, fun game
Oh,
with anime style art.
It was using a lot of fairy tales. As,
yeah. It was like
characters.
Alice and a
Yeah,
few others.
fantastic, and then they they ruined the game as they went.
Whenever it first
Yeah.
came out, I could build a deck for $40,
Yeah.
and it was competitive.
What was that Richard Garfield game that came out where it was like?
Keyforge.
There we go, Keyforge.
Keyforge isn't a TCG.
Oh really?
No, because you
Oh, 'cause they're
bought.
all different. Right?
Well, it was, but wasn't
It's
because
weird where it falls.
what it was
It's a
was
DCG.
you got a random pre-built
CGG.
deck
Oh,
that you
okay.
couldn't change.
Yeah.
So the randomness, I guess, is technically TCG, but you didn't build a deck and get pull random
DTG?
packs.
Yeah.
Deck trading
I mean,
game.
Kinda.
kind of, yeah.
I liked
I mean-
Keyforge for that.
Yeah, it was a fun game. I really enjoyed it. It just died out around here.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
came out with their third set, and apparently it was super weak, and just people went and vanished.
And it had a super low barrier for entry.
Yeah.
I know some of the decks would go for high price, but you
That's
go drop
once they're
$10
open,
and you get a deck, and it was playable for the most part. Now, there were some that were better than others because the decks, the cards inside the decks were random, but it was a playable deck. $10 for that, whereas I paid $3 for a Pokemon booster pack and get cards. I can't put that. I can't play anything with just that booster pack, right?
That's where
No.
that's where comes difference because you're basically buying starter decks, because booster they have each TCG usually has a starter deck in each of their sets,
And those are pre-built. Like a
They're
starter
pre-built,
deck,
yes.
a pre-built deck
Yeah.
is kind of like
meant to
generated
teach,
stuff.
really.
Yeah.
They're not going to be
Yeah.
competitive, but I mean, they typically are cohesive and play well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and Keyforge was basically that's what you were buying a starter deck. The thing with that was I could buy a pack and start playing, unlike the others
Mhm.
where you have to buy if you wanted to buy your random set packs, you had to buy several to start building the deck.
You can buy a starter deck and go play
Typically,
any of
you
these
can.
trading card
Yeah.
games. You
Oh,
just buy one
100%.
and go
Yeah.
play.
They're
But if you're,
typically $15 to $20, and
Yeah.
they usually come with like one pack.
yeah,
And a
sometimes
lot.
they'll come with like a booster pack.
And I don't know how it is across the board, but I know a lot.
Some of them come with more than
I know a
one.
lot
Yeah.
of people recently, like in terms of Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all these like pre-cons or pre-constructed decks that you can buy already built. The structure decks in Yu-Gi-Oh have been absolutely phenomenal at getting new players, need cards if they're going to go to a big tournament. Because now there's some of them that come with like 5 or 6 or they come with one copy of a card that you probably want to run each of in your main deck. So that's one of the main things that I really foresee being like that. That's something that I'm really happy about that they've been doing here
So
recently.
you think it's going to push the player base up for Yu-Gi-Oh? Is having that?
I think that's for just any card game that wants to make it a little bit like they'll build a precons for Magic for Commander. That's like their main seller right now, and they've been doing phenomenal jobs of making these precons like almost EDH or CEDH competitive, which is competitive Elder Dragon, Highlander, or Commander. So those are really like they're just the
Wait, one more time.
You just said a bunch of words that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So you said competitive, Elder Dragon, Highlander, or Commander.
Yeah, it's called EDH is the original name.
Elder Dragon, Highlander.
Yep, and then it's what most people now call it is Commander.
Okay, and that's a way to play Magic the Gathering?
That is the
That's
most
kind of knowing what this is.
That is the most common way to play as of right now, as far as I know.
It's
'cause
popular.
It's become
Yeah.
a very popular. Instead of playing 60 card decks, you play a 100 card deck, and you have your commander character who stays out and does their ability all the time.
100 card deck? What?
And also, only one copy of every card. You can't have more than one.
There can be
Unless
only
the
one.
card specifies
Adam,
otherwise.
And you have to stick in with your the color scheme, which each
like
each
I
card
played,
has different colors.
I played it for a little while, and I used Edgar. He was black, red, black, red, and white, right?
Yeah, that's what they call
And-
Mardu.
Yeah, they had a different name for each one of them.
So Magic
I
has-
could only include black, white, and red cards in the deck.
Or any combination.
Magic
of
the
those.
Gathering has 5 different color schemes for its cards. Black, white, red, green, and blue.
Yes.
And all the cards that you get from Magic the Gathering are some version of that. Some of them, I think there's some sets that are like double colors,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes, but we're not going to get into all that
That's
stuff.
a
But
whole
yeah,
other-
just for an example,
Yeah.
while we're talking about color.
So I think that's a cool idea. The whole lowering the barrier for entry. for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Magic does it every once in a while, but something that was a bummer to me is that they don't consistently do that. Like when they did the Lord of the Rings set, or the crossover with Magic the Gathering, they did, what are those called again?
The precons?
Precons. They did reconstruction decks, but the Clue one didn't. Like they had a Clue.
Oh, that was
Oh yeah, Magic did tiny. That's the most recent one now.
Yeah,
that's
I want to play it, but I don't have $600 to throw.
Well, the most,
Yeah.
I think the most recent one is the Fallout. They just recently did
What?
the
Fallout one?
Fallout.
That
Yeah.
sounds awesome. But
You
the
can't hardly
barrier
find
for
them.
entry sucks.
Magic has
Yeah.
combined with a ton of. They're doing a Marvel crossover later
Oh, yeah.
on. Magic the Gathering is doing a Marvel crossover later this year, and that will probably be when I actually spend some money on Magic.
It blew
the
my
Gathering.
mind that they did Godzilla.
They did
Oh,
Transformers.
And
I think they did G.I.
Transformers.
Joe.
They did
at
My
one point.
Little
And
Pony.
Power Rangers.
Didn't they do Princess Bride?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a secret layer. They did Jurassic World in the
Just-
Ixalan set. That's like
Yeah,
one of the newer
that's
sets.
Smart. Like I was like, I went back and played for a little bit with some precons. I
You
bought
know-
precons for Lord of the Rings, and me and Zach played. And
Yeah.
I get
devil
it.
out of those decks.
Yeah.
I get it. There's only so many things you can make up yourself. Now it's time to start time pulling other IPs so you can get that fan base.
Okay, so let's move on. So we've talked about all kinds of different. There's tons of different games that fall under that TCG category. But let's talk about a brief history of the CCG and the TCGs and where that kind of came from. Magic the Gathering is one that we've talked about ad nauseum, and we're going to continue to talk about because it is the OG. This was the first TCG, and it was by Wizards of the Coast, published by Wizards of the Coast in 1993. It was created by a man by the name of Richard Garfield. Magic the Gathering was a massive commercial success. And by the end of 1994, it had sold over 1 billion cards, is what I read on its first,
That's unreal.
Yeah.
year and a half. It now generates over $1 billion in revenue for Wizards of the Coast yearly. Magic the Gathering does. So we talked about the TCG versus CCG nomenclature there and why that is. And that's because big friendly corporation, Wizards of the Coast, filed a patent. And I may be wrong on some of this. So if we're wrong, correct us. Send us an email, heelshavenerds@gmail.com. Send us an email. Come on our Facebook. Let us know if we're wrong about any of this. Yeah. Wizards of the Coast filed a copyright for TCG. Now, just filing a copyright for the term trading card game is, from my understanding, probably like too broad to be enforceable. So what they ended up doing, and what I discovered as I was kind of going down this rabbit hole the past few days of the history of TCGs and CCGs, was that they started copywriting mechanics and their terminology for the mechanics of Magic. So like when I play a land in Magic, which is what I use to play my cards, I may have one card that requires me to have one red land and one black land played. And so I've played both those down to activate those, to play the card in my hand, to play my creature, my swamp goblin or whatever I want to play down, my Aaron. If I want to play that down, I then have to tap the lands I want to use. And that's the terminology that Magic the Gathering uses, tap. And you just turn it to the right. You just cock it sideways.
I'm at 10 cost with 1/1.
It costs 1/1 with quick strike.
It's like they can copyright the name of the mechanic for themselves, but they can't copyright the mechanic itself.
Yeah.
So, because if you look forward into
Be
Force
like
of Wheel, I'm sure other games as well, but it's the closest like Magic counterpart as far as like mechanic wise.
Yeah.
It uses exhaust
Yeah.
rather than tap.
Marvel
Yeah.
Champions
But it's the
uses
same
exhaust.
thing.
Yeah.
So the copyright for TCG, for the terminology TCG and some of that, it, in my understanding, expired in 2018. So I don't know if you guys know this, but there has been kind of, over the late aughts, the late 2010s rather, there has been this kind of explosion of CCGs coming out and TCGs coming out. And I think, it feels like to me that has something to do with those copyrights beginning to expire.
Maybe.
That
Maybe
now
Turbo could.
people can start using localized terminology and not worry about like TCG being, Wizards filing
Yeah.
with them or filing grievances or lawsuits.
I think there's also another with the market, because it had a big crash there for a while. And it was just, it was what around 2006, 2009 era.
Mhm.
Between there, because of the market crash, I mean, because everything had crashed,
Yep.
and people weren't spending as much money. A lot of people got scared to make new games because of that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was a big thing. But now that it's started going up, especially ever since COVID,
Yep.
they started handing out money. It's really ripened up, and people have really gone. But we'll continue. But there's more to it than just that.
All right.
So
Magic the Gathering came about as a, from what I read in the history of it, came as an idea for like this easy to play pickup game to fund the creation of another game that Garfield wanted to. So Garfield had proposed this game to Wizard of the Coast, him and another gentleman whose name escapes me this time, Adkins or Davidson, or like that, and proposed this game, Robo Rally. Well, Wizards of the Coast didn't want to make that game, and they said, well, here's what we want. Give us like an easy to play, easy to make game. Lisa starts snoring on the podcast. I'm here.
Taking
Put me in,
notes.
coach.
There's going to be a test later.
There's going to be a test after.
Just tired.
Bless your heart. It's ACT prep, and so or actually ACTs, right?
Yeah.
You've been going hard at it. Also, today was the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
It was very
that's
cloudy.
why Lee's tired.
That's why he's tired. It's drained his energy. The sun was not shining.
I was like all these Facebook fanatics. I was waiting for the rapture, and here I still am.
I
I'm
was
exhausted. It's like, God, let's do this.
I was hoping I wasn't going to have to go to work tomorrow. I was waiting to get raptured.
I was waiting on you, J-Man.
Where are we, man? Come on, I'm tired, boss.
Take my hands, boss. So Magic the Gathering came about as this kind of way to fund this other game. So Garfield had the idea for this game called Mana Clash, which I think was kind of the prototype for
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering.
Well, to my understanding, what I'd heard that Mana Clash was Magic the Gathering originally. Is what
Okay.
I'd heard.
Cool. So Mana Clash. It was the game that he had this kind of prototype for, and that's what became Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
And they created that, proposed it to Wizards of the Coast, and went on. And it borrowed some elements from these board games, Cosmic Encounter, which kind of had the players. And if you've ever played Cosmic Encounter, it's a board game where you take the role of an alien. You have an alien civilization. You're kind of like trying to colonize the galaxy from your buddies. 5 players sit at a table and go around that. And then Stratomatic Baseball, which is where players could draft baseball players for their teams and then would play kind of this simulated baseball game against each other. So you build your deck, quote unquote, with the baseball players.
Oh.
So, so that was kind of where Magic the Gathering came from. This cultural juggernaut was originally made to build, fund another game.
And the satanic ritual that Garfield did to make the
Oh,
cards.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
He was taught the ritual by the tabletop dude.
Gary Gygax.
Gary
Yes.
Gygax.
Oh yeah, both of them sold their souls, and you know what? We want to extend our greatest condolences and thank yous to the families of the virgins that they sacrificed to make that happen. The Hills Have Nerds appreciate your sacrifice, ladies. Or men. Whatever. Everybody can be a virgin.
That's sweet.
There's probably 3 virgins sitting in this room right now.
That's sweet of you.
5 virgins sitting in this room right now.
I'm a virgin at heart.
You just say count.
I have one child going to college this year and another one in high school, and my mother still believes I'm a virgin. So that's...
Actually, just as I was leaving,
Just
my mom,
had sex later today.
I just made whoopee.
Perfect timing, Lee.
As you're leaving, what?
I was actually just going to say, as I was leaving to come here, my mom was walking up the sidewalk to take my family out to dinner, and I was like, I gotta go record the podcast, Mom.
Go talk about card games with my friends.
I actually said I have a prior engagement, and then she asked what it was, and I was like,
And then she just kind of put her head down and walked off.
So I have to take out the rest of the people that aren't disappointments.
When I tell people what I like, why do they always deep sigh? We are 5 adult men pushing 40.
Sitting around a microphone, sweating and talking about card games.
Pokemon cards.
Speaking of Pokemon cards.
Well, now, hold on. I got one more fact about Magic. Over 100 expansions have been released about Magic, and they've had crossovers with all the crap we just mentioned before.
I was like, we already talked about
Close to
that.
40.
We did. We
Okay.
actually did talk about that.
We didn't talk about how many
Yeah.
expansions. Though.
Well, I made show notes.
They've also
You want us to read those while we're holding them?
Yeah, we're
So-
holding them.
They got close to 30,000
Oh.
individual cards released too.
Is
Yeah.
Black Lotus the most expensive?
I think so.
Card?
Yeah.
Still.
I think it's the most expensive
Still.
card, like
So-
ever in anything.
Yeah, like people tend to know that one. Like when if you don't
Yeah.
know much about card games, you typically know what a Black Lotus is.
It's
Yeah.
funny because the stories I've heard for the Black Lotus is it was a common,
Yep.
and everybody would open the pack and pull it out and go, "Oh, I got another," and just chuck it across the room.
I think that's why so few have
Yeah.
continued
Well,
on.
it was from the alpha,
have
so
lasted. Yeah.
I don't think they printed a whole lot of that base set anyway, and then they went on to beta when they realized it was actually doing well.
And unlimited after that, right? It was alpha, beta,
Beta.
and then unlimited was
Yeah.
the next set.
And they also
Yeah.
didn't understand balance
Oh
at the
yeah,
time.
I don't know. I'm
so-
not sure any of these card games
Yeah.
understand balance now.
Well, it's one of those.
At least they try now.
Yeah.
At least they attempt now.
Yeah, to my understanding, it's one of those that works really well with later cards too.
Mhm.
And like you said at the time, it was a common, and people were like, "Yeah."
It works
That's
well
not
with
a
anything.
creature.
It's free,
Yeah.
and then you just drop it down
Get
and then
3
sack
mana.
it to get 3 free mana.
Yeah.
True.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black
Yeah,
Lotus.
destroy
Looked at. I'm gonna put a link in the show notes to the history of the Black Lotus. It's super interesting. We're not gonna get into it all here,
Yeah.
but super interesting. So next came Pokemon. Pokemon created by came out in Japan,
Pokemon.
1996 by Media Factories. This is Pokemon TCG. Pokemon itself had been around for a little bit before then, but the Pokemon TCG
A couple of years, I think.
Yeah. came out published by Media Factory in 96 by Japan and published by Media Factory in Japan in 96,
I think.
and then Wizards of the Coast picked it up in 98 in the US, and Pokemon also has over 100 expansions. 100 extra sets that would come out for it. Like, that's insane. And they come out with like an extra set every 3 months.
Yeah.
With a few hundred cards to it. Like,
It's like it's even more dense than that now. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like a set every month.
that's insane.
They
How do you
used-
keep up as a collector?
They used to do
hard.
every 4 months and just do it like every third, and they changed over to do every quarter,
Yep.
every 3 months. And then they just started going, well, we need more money, so they're going to start printing stuff in between them and hitting the like special sets. It's usually smaller, but
Subsets.
So in the
But
podcast
cost
today-
more.
just sometimes, yeah.
It's the smaller sets, but cost more.
Oh yeah. We're gonna put less cards. We're gonna make them more expensive. That's what the consumers
What
want.
was that magic pack that was like how much was it?
Is it Jumpstart?
No,
Or is
the
it-
one that was like ridiculous. It was like $1,000 or something. It was that most recent one.
You remember the Lord of the Rings?
It was
one where
after
they had the
Lord
one
of the
ring
Rings.
in it.
It was
No.
after Lord of the Rings. It was a set they done. It was they were reprinting a bunch of old cards in it.
I have no idea.
It's not the Fallout set, is it?
No, it was reprinting a
Is
whole
it-
bunch of
you-
old cards.
is it Modern
Look that
Master?
up, and we're gonna go on.
Like Time War.
All right. So Pokemon also has over 100 expansions. Pokemon earned more revenue. The Pokemon TCG earned more revenue in its first 5 years than Magic the Gathering did in its first 10.
Yeah.
I think Pokemon the TCG is the like highest selling TCG currently.
As a guy who's worked in a card store, we were working at page 3. I worked at this store.
Mhm.
That was something we always, Pokemon, like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh. Pokemon were the 3 big ones we sold.
And we're going to talk about those
Yeah.
probably primarily here
Mhm.
today. So get
Magic-
ready for that. You want us to talk about
Yeah.
something else? Let us know. We need emails and feedback.
Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, their sales dipped and raised all the time because it was like people were like, "Oh, this isn't a good set. I'm not gonna buy that now." Oh, there's not any good cards here. Oh, this set's really good, so now it spikes up sales.
Yeah.
Pokemon was one we were always like, we were never worried about Pokemon because it don't matter what the players played because kids are always going to be like, "Yay, Pikachu!"
Yeah.
So they
want those
always
Pokemon
sold.
cards, man.
Yeah. They always sold. And we had parents coming all the time just being like, "Yeah, he just wants this Pikachu card. Here's, 15 different Pikachu cards. Take your pick."
Yeah, I mean, I find myself now, like, I don't even do the like, I sold my collection, which we've talked about on the podcast a
Yeah.
little bit. I sold my collection a while back, and then we started getting into it to build a collection for the kids, and the kids had no interest in it. And I enjoy it. I like it, but it's just expensive to
It is.
buy random. And it's
Yeah.
fun. You get that dopamine boost to open the booster packs and pull the cards out, and me and Elizabeth enjoyed sitting down and doing that. But it's just not something I want to spend my discretionary income on. But I still find myself looking at these new sets when they come out and being like, "Oh man, that's one of my favorite Pokemon. They just put a new full art card out in." And so full art cards are, for example, what we mean by that is normally a card will have like some text on it for what the thing does, what the character does, and there's a little window, and that has the art of the card in it. You know, the Pokemon in it. Full arts extend for the entire card, and they're rarer and stuff like that. So there's this full art Faravine in the new set. I'm like, man, I kind of want that one. And it's probably like a $5 card, so I could probably get it as a single if I really wanted one like to put on the shelf. But that's how they get you. And that's one of the key things of Pokemon. When's the last time you heard somebody, like, you could ask a question to a room full of people and say, who's your favorite Planeswalker?
Yeah.
And, you know, not half of the room go, what the hell are you talking about? But if you look at a room full of people, even people who've never played Pokemon, and say, who's your favorite Pokemon?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to say something.
Yeah.
Right? It's just recognizable. It's more approachable, I think, to me.
Well, it also has another media to
it's
help
got
sell
multiple other medias. I mean, it's
I guess multiple.
It's a force, man. And we need to do an episode on
cartoon.
Pokemon too.
Didn't Magic? I mean, like, I know, like, I'm didn't Magic have books at some point?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have like actual comics recently.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I bet those are good.
Guess what? Pokemon also has books and comic books,
comics and movies,
video
Is
games.
there a media they haven't touched, really? Pokemon?
That's a good question. I don't. There's probably a handful few for like very niche things, but I'd say they probably hit. Just
No,
about
I
every
can't
facet.
think of anything.
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. They're in food. They're in.
Oh yeah.
So, what's the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, Thomas? We talked about Magic and
Yeah.
Pokemon, and what's the history of Yu-Gi-Oh?
So I guess to start off with the history of Yu-Gi-Oh is the man himself, God rest his soul, Kazuki Takahashi. Kazuki Takahashi was the original creator. Yeah, he's the original creator of Yu-Gi-Oh and the game. He was working on the game since 1996, but the actual TC or the OCG or the original card game was released in 1999, and then from there, 3 years later, the U.S. finally got the TCG, or what was the first original set, The Legend of Blue Eyes. Which it's like even if you don't know Yu-Gi-Oh, you've heard of Blue Eyes or Exodia.
Oh yeah, the Blue Eyes White Dragon.
So all those are, and then it just kind of started rolling from there. And then they got, I think in the early stages, they actually ended up getting, Kazuki Takahashi worked with Konami, who is the actual owner of the subsidiary of the company now. But since Kazuki Takahashi's passing in, I want to say 2018, 2019, it is now owned by a company called Studio Dice. So they have their own company. It's owned by another subsidiary of Konami. So
Okay.
And it just kind of, it's been really big in terms of like grossing or gross money. Like in terms of money, it's still one of the big three for that very reason. Is it's still popular. Again, like you guys mentioned earlier, like you could just have a kid come in, I just want to buy a Blue Eyes card, or I want to buy a part of Exodia or whatever, and they'll know immediately what that is.
They had Yu-Gi-Oh has a really popular anime too, right?
Which one came first? Was it the anime or the card game?
I want to say the anime did. Well, actually, the manga came out first.
Well, yeah, manga.
And then I want to say the card game, and then they released the anime in like 2004, 2005.
So was Yu-Gi-Oh the third released trading card game? Was it like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh?
I think I don't think it's like that, because it was like late 90s before we actually got that.
I was going to say 98 for Pokemon. So
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yeah.
No.
All right.
What we got
Do I need to
going
put
on?
a sign up that says turn off phones before?
I don't know what that was.
Everything okay?
I bet, yeah, I'm sure it's probably.
Those good neighbors from home playing.
I bet Shelly turned on
Spotify.
Spotify.
Thanks, Shelly.
I like to scare the hell out of my kids with Alexa sometimes. You can make Alexa just yell stuff out. But I found out it says like if I say, Alexa, say I'm hiding in the house or something like that, I know what you smell like while you sleep. You know, if I tell Alexa to say that, she'll say something like incoming drop in from Josh. I know what you smell like while you sleep. Like, well, Alexa, of course I know what my children smell like while they sleep.
I think it was the 30th
It's not
anniversary
great.
promo for Magic. It released, and it was reprinting a bunch of old cards. And I think the booster box was supposed to be like $1,000, and it was like $100 or a couple $100 per pack. And then you still couldn't play with some of the cards in games.
Because they weren't legal.
So this was the thing you were talking about, the big like $1,000 booster box for Magic.
Yeah, they released one that was super. It was just the 30th anniversary set.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that.
30 years, good lord.
Well, I mean, Konami this past year they've been doing their 25th or quarter century celebration.
Yeah. Pokemon's 30th is coming up. I want to say, yeah.
Maybe.
I think next year. Is Pokemon's 30th. Good Lord. We're so old.
But I think it was guaranteed to have like a Black Lotus or something else in it, like a reprint of a really expensive card, but it was still not legal to be played.
Nice.
So
we want to talk about competitive.
Yeah, so the next little tab here I have that I wanted to
one
cover
legal to be
is
played.
we'll talk about just gameplay. Just game. What is the gameplay of these? Why are they fun? Like I have not played a trading card game that I've not had fun playing. I'll say that. I've had fun playing every one that I've ever played. Some of them I've had more fun than others, but I've never not had fun playing them. So what?
I have.
Well, I say that like I've definitely played games of them where I've been like, I just did not have fun.
I've played a game where I didn't.
Stop.
I actually just did not enjoy.
Jeez.
That was about retail.
I did not enjoy the game. I'm trying to. I don't remember the name. It was one that our friend Chris just pulled up randomly one time, and
yeah, he's found some weird ones.
Yeah, he loves TCGs.
Yeah.
And he
Some
just
of them he finds are
randomly
good,
finds some
but-
good ones that are there's been some good ones, but this one was rough, and I don't remember the name of it, but I remember like you attacked locations and revealed, and the only problem I had with it is like once you succeeded in something bad happened to you,
Okay.
and I was like, well, why would I want to do something when something bad's going to
Well,
happen?
that kind of
to me?
keeps you from like winning more, right?
I
Like
get-
it keeps it from snowballing.
It's supposed to be a balancing thing, but then I didn't feel like I succeeded in anything.
Yeah, you have to have a decent balance of things because there was also one that I can't remember what it was. I think it was another game that Force of Wheels Company was making, and it was
The magical girl one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Zach talked about it because he went to Gen Con and got to try it.
Mhm.
And it was you sit down, you roll the dice to find out who goes first, and then that player wins. Whoever went first had like a 90% chance to win.
Welcome to modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just flip coins at this point.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of them end up doing that. I know Yu-Gi-Oh got that way. It was like if I don't win on turn 3, you win.
Yeah.
There's some of them that you draw your opening hand and it's like, okay, well, I have my win condition. Do you? No? Okay.
What's win condition mean?
It means I have the set number of cards, a set combo of cards in my hand to lay down on the field to make me win the game.
Yeah. I remember a Magic player actually telling me, he was like, I either win on turn 4 or I lose. And I was like, what a fun game.
I mean, I can see how that is for like that rush of, okay, I'm getting my piece. I mean, it's like poker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you get the flop and there's 3 you got, you have your hand. Okay, so there's a piece to what I'm looking for.
I mean,
And then you turn and then the river and they keep coming up right. It's that
every
it's
game's
game.
bad for it.
Yeah, with any TCG as of right now, especially like any sort of card game that you play competitively, there is a luck aspect in it. Because
it has to
cards,
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have to know it's like you're only allowed 3 or 4 copies of one card in your deck. I'm gonna try to min-max it as much as I can, which is trying to make it as consistent as you possibly can.
You tried to build the deck in a way that limits that luck aspect.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's, especially in Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh today, there's 1 card starters that you can have, which is probably not as much in Magic because you run off of a resource base. But when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, you could open up 1 card, and if you go uninterrupted, you're setting up a board that your opponent cannot play through. Like, just period. They cannot play through it at all.
You just keep playing Pot of Greed and drawing 2 cards.
I draw 3 cards.
Draw 3 cards.
I play Pot of Greed. Draw 3 cards.
That's not what that card does.
Yeah. That's what it do, Yugi.
So what is our favorite? Each of us, what's our favorite TCG to play? What's your favorite that you've played so far?
I mean,
So, Thomas.
yeah, I mean, as of recent, I've been playing competitively, and that's Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh has been the one that out of all the time that as long as I've played, competitive modern Yu-Gi-Oh format is my absolute favorite to do because as there's a ban list that happens every 3-4 months, and there's always a new set that's coming out in a new way to get stuff lined out. But I thoroughly enjoy that. The new Yugi-Oh format. Phew, words are
The
hard.
Yugi-Oh, Yugi-Oh.
Words.
Aaron?
That's tough. I don't really play a lot anymore. I've played Magic before. I've played Pokemon. Played Force of Will, and I loved Force of Will until they ruined it. I guess the most recent thing, I had a lot of fun with Lorcana when we played it, so I really enjoyed it. But I find myself leaning more through LCGs, the living card games, than I do TCG
Well,
plays.
the barrier for entry is lower, man.
Yeah, and I have a favorite LCG, but we're not talking about that today. So
For TCGs, I think it goes back and forth between the Force of Will before they ruined it, and honestly Pokemon. I really like the set of Pokemon. It's not very interactive between you and your opponent, but I think it still plays out well.
yeah, that's one of the things I like about it. Is like it's simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of refreshing to sit down and not have to have a physics degree to try to figure out what I'm doing with this card and what he's doing with his card at the same time.
Lee?
Magic the Gathering is the one that I played the most of. I played Pokemon, I played Magic the Gathering. I didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! At all. But I still enjoy Magic the Gathering every once in a while. We get a wild hair and buy a couple of precons and fart around with it, and then we go, oh yeah, Mana Starved. I remember why this game sucks.
What's Mana Starved mean?
Oh yeah, sorry. Mana Starved is like you draw cards and you don't get the lands that you needed, which are the resources you use to play your cards. If you don't draw them and you can't mow it or whatever, then you're...
You also have the other issue of being flooded.
Yeah, it's just...
I see nothing but resources.
It's just the inconsistency and the luck of it. It pushes me more towards LCGs as well. And other board games, I just... Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, you think you love it, but you discover more stuff. I started playing Magic the Gathering in 6th grade a bajillion years ago.
Oh yeah.
I'm 37, so
I tell you what my favorite CCG is now. Pulling packs. Opening packs.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, just open a pack.
Yeah, that's just a rush. That's just fun.
I love gambling.
Oh, it's so fun to open it up. And I pulled out of the Brilliant Stars over at the gaming company. I just went in there after I'd sold the collection, and I was like, I'm going to buy some booster packs and see. Bought a booster pack, pulled the alternate art Charizard, the most expensive card in that set, just sitting there at the register. And I looked, I was like, oh, that's pretty. And Nathan happened to walk by, Nathan from our Friendly Local Game Stores episode. He walked by, he looked, he goes, let me go get you a sleeve for that. I was like, oh, what is this? What? I was like, that's really cool. It's like Charizard fighting Venusaur on an alternate art.
And then
It's
Josh
so
started
cool.
picking his teeth with it. Like, no.
Oh my god.
He rolled it up and started snorting.
I do have a muck still. When I was going through the collection, I have a muck card that has, buddy, that one's got some mileage on it. I think it's definitely been through like a couple washing machine cycles, but it's survived. It's like, I think it's a jungle muck. I can't remember if the first muck was jungle or fossil, but I mean, still from 2000.
Like 98,
25 years ago.
Young Josh was like, I wanted to look like Mike. Yay!
This one just crumpled up in your pocket. I got this slowpoke that I squeezed in my fist.
Y'all take trade-ins?
How much is this worth? That's a rare card now.
Sir, why is this card wet?
If y'all want to hear, listeners out there in podcast land, if you want to hear a great story about a Pokemon card and rarity and values, go back and listen to that Friendly Local Game Store episode with Nathan on it, with us, and about the Machamp, the first edition.
First edition Machamp.
It's a good story.
That's fantastic.
You won't be disappointed.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'm with Cody. My favorite that I've ever played is Pokemon. If I ever actually got into one, it would be Pokemon. But it's just the barrier for entry and cost is too much for me. I mean, more power to you if that's what you like and that's your game. I've spent a ton of money on Marvel Champions and other stuff. It's just not.
If you got the money, I say go for it.
Yeah, I like it. Go for it. So let's talk about competition. So I have on here like how the games differ from each other. And we can kind of talk about that if you guys want to, but we're just over an hour. We usually go for about an hour and a half.
Sure.
So I just wanted to talk about like the competitive scene, and I think Thomas, you can talk a little bit more about to that than we can. But I just wanted to give some stats real quick before we get into it.
Sure.
So in the Magic Pro Tour, whatever the prize pool at what I was seeing, it looked like the highest ranking tournament. The prize pool for that tournament for playing Magic the Gathering was between $250,000 to $500,000.
Man.
Yeah. Pokemon.
Was that for first place or was that divided?
It was
amongst-
divided as the prize
Okay.
pool, so that's
Yeah.
what they pay out people from. But
Everybody.
still,
Okay. that's still a lot.
in Pokemon at Pokemon Masters, and this is something the Pokemon company like ended up buying the production rights back from Wizards of the Coast, and there's some weird like tomfoolery going on through there. And Wizards of the Coast ended up having to like sue them for something. It was a whole big thing. I didn't write about all that because I didn't want to say anything wrong. But the prize pool. And Lee's literally asleep. It's great. Hopefully you all have there honestly.
I'm
I'm
asleep.
so tired. I'm so sorry, Lee. Thank you for being here.
I'm here. My eyes hurt. I'm just resting my eyes.
You stare
baby.
at you watch the eclipse too
I'm
long?
like, boys, I used to play Magic back in the day. Now, Papa's going to close his eyes for just a second.
There's a bug in mine. I'm trying to suffocate it. But at Pokemon Masters, the TCG prize for first place was $50,000. $50,000. Now the highest prize for a first place finish in Yu-Gi-Oh that I could find was $5,000.
And that should be there should be an asterisk. beside
Okay,
that.
all right, an asterisk.
Okay.
Because
So you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh.
So Yu-Gi-Oh competition, I will say Konami as of recent, I'm not afraid to call them out. They are poor when it comes to the actual like prize pool.
Heard that, Konami. Tom's throwing down the gauntlet.
Well, it's like the TCG has way better prizing than we do. If we get first prize at a big event, we get a playmat, we get a custom card, and we get a Nintendo Switch, and that's it. So people who like win these big YCS tournaments and stuff, they'll have to sell their trophy or sell their playmat, or like to actually make their money on the trip.
Yeah.
Because there's people who travel from like Spain and like all over the world, like European area. Like there's just it's really bad. Like in terms of whenever they go through prizing,
These
is
are like
not.
top players that are having.
Yeah, like
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's why you see a lot of these people get like a team. So a lot of these people when they get like a team, they're usually backed by a big store. So that's one of the main things like that I've seen be an issue in terms of that. And
There's one thing I can say for Pokemon Company. They won't do it for everyone that plays. It's usually just their top players or whatever. But they will actually offer to fly some people out to play for them.
yeah, because I think for Pokemon Nationals is at Hawaii this year.
Oh,
So
nice.
No.
Yeah, it was in Japan one year, and they fly some of their top players out.
Pokemon has its own kind of pride. And I follow this a little bit, just some of the Pokemon podcasts I listen to talk about the TCG. They have their own issues with some of the like qualifying matches and stuff they do. Like it's not policed super well, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But
yeah.
yeah, they got their own problems. But $250,000 to $500,000 for Magic the Gathering prize pool.
Makes me think I'm in the wrong area to play.
Man, hard to say.
A playmat and a slap in the face from Konami.
Yeah.
I was like, money, fool.
The only
Here's your
thing
money.
is,
It's Konami.
It's covered in
I know, like, Konami makes me sad.
the only thing is that just pays for their deck that they got there with. So
I doubt it even pays for the deck if they're playing like competitive Yu-Gi-Oh.
It doesn't.
no.
Yeah.
The best deck in the room right now is a deck called Sinful Spoil Snake Eye.
Who's got the best deck in the room right now? Whip it out.
That deck right now is going for over $1,000 if you want to play competitively. Because there's one card in the extra deck that's over $150. There's a play set of each card. They're like $50-$60 a piece, if not higher than that, depending on what the market is. And like just in like 9 cards, you're paying almost, paying $1,000 for just 9 cards in a 40 card deck.
That's funny. 'Cause most of the ways a lot of the competitive decks work, it's like 10, 15 cards at max. That is the majority of your cost, and then the rest of the deck is like $5.
Peanuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6, maybe.
Oh yeah.
You put peanuts in your deck?
I mean, I would.
That's
I
weird.
put Jerry Beans, man.
What's a Jerry Bean?
It's a Jerry Beans man. He's an old vanilla card from like an older GX era set.
I'll just talk of peanuts and dicks.
Peanuts and decks.
And
all over the
beans.
place. This truly is the guest podcast.
What is this, Master of Disguise?
I'm looking for a guy who's got a little winner and some
Tiny
tiny
nuts.
nuts. If you haven't watched Master of Disguise, Dana Carvey's magnum opus, go watch Master of Disguise. It's a movie from God knows how long ago, 20 years ago, and it's
Or more.
amazing. So
was
good. It's really bad.
It's like 06, 04, something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It
Yeah.
was like 20 years ago. It was a while. All right, so talking about that value, talking about the cost of cards. So if you want to get into competitive and like genuinely compete, like go down, like show up at a Friday Night Magic and win, you're gonna have to drop some major quiche, some cash, some cashish. Yeah,
And I think that's right now with any new predominant big three trading card game.
Yeah.
I think the cheapest one is probably going to be Pokemon, if I had to guess. If you're not trying to like max rarity everything.
Yeah, they're not too bad, and mostly because of the way Pokemon does with its ultra rares and because the ultra rares are alt arts of cards. Like you can get a Charizard that is the exact same card functionally as the alternate art Charizard. It's just cool. So Pokemon's rarity comes from the art on the card. I think now.
Yeah, but
which is nice.
The use of the card will still dictate the price a little bit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So like that alternate art card of the Charizard will run $150, $175 a card sometimes more. While if it's a commonly used card, may still be $30, $40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a
or
lot.
More.
Still a lot.
There's a lot of these companies.
It's still high.
It's quite a bit.
There's a lot of these companies too. That like depending, like if it's a subset and it's like a really important card that's needed. If it's in a subset, it's going to be short printed. Konami admits to that with like the short printing of things. Like your subsets are like predominantly short printed. Like there's a card called Bonfire.
Just lighting $100 bill on fire to light your cigar, sucking nerves. Hope you find your car. Good luck. Open some packs.
They're sitting right in the middle of all their pachinko machines.
Yeah. That's how they got their start, man.
Just ashing into like a Yugi-Oh first round cut. Just a trophy.
Oh no!
And give it to the guy that won the Masters.
Oh no! We seem to have printed less of that good card.
Oh
no! Which is really funny on their part because secondary market doesn't give them any money.
Yeah.
So
there's
still got to be bought to get on the secondary market. Though.
Yeah.
It's insane, absolutely insane. But so what I was getting at with the price rate, do these things retain that value?
Man, it depends on the TCG. I always like to say that because with Yu-Gi-Oh, depending on what ban list comes out. So for Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like a quarterly ban list. So there's 4 year, and there's one that should be hitting.
What's a ban list mean?
So there's cards that are not able to be played in the current format. So like for example, Magic has ban lists for each format. Yu-Gi-Oh has one just for it's like a blanket ban because there's some cards, like some of these older cards are just absolutely broken. They're not once per turn. You're just able to keep recycling that one exact card over and over
Pot
again.
of Greed we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Free, draw 2 cards.
It's a free +2, as I like to call it.
So they rotate sets out of competitive play like Magic the Gathering does.
Not sets,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
cards.
Yeah.
They do specific cards with Yu-Gi-Oh. With Magic, it's sets.
Okay.
Yeah, Magic will rotate the whole set out.
Pokemon does too.
Yeah, Magic and Pokemon both operate in blocks, which is the most recent 3 or 4 sets occasionally will be standard, and then Magic runs modern, which runs back so far, and then they run a legacy, which is
that's
basically wide open.
Yeah, Mad Max world.
Well, Legacy, you have to use cards from like the first few sets. Like you can go from Alpha to like Urza Saga or whatever. I'm not 100% sure, but all those cards are like $100 a piece and up for the cheapest one.
And each of them still has their own ban list.
Yeah.
So a card in standard could be banned, but you can use it in modern because there's other things that counter it still. So its value will still hold.
Mm-hmm.
But competitive Yu-Gi-Oh does not have a block. It's just from the first bit of Yu-Gi-Oh to now, you can use any card.
Yeah.
But there's some ban lists that they just ban like singular cards.
So to kind of give you a quick breakdown of what the ban list looks like, it's separated into the forbidden, which means you can have 0 copies in your deck, limited, which you can only have 1, semi-limited, you can have 2 copies, and unlimited, which is stuff they would take off the ban list, they put in the unlimited category, which means you can run 3 copies of that one card.
Okay.
So
And what was it Nathan was talking about? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
you're good.
Thomas. But what was it Nathan was talking about with us the other day? That Yu-Gi-Oh will release. Hey, you tell me if I'm right on this,
Sure.
Thomas, or not. Yu-Gi-Oh will release like a powerful card. It'll be a powerful card in a set, and it'll end up like spiking in price.
Absolutely.
And it'll be rare or something.
Yeah.
And then later on, they'll release that card in like a starter deck. or a pre-con or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. There's a card as of right now that they
And
still
make it super
haven't-
easy to get.
They still haven't reprinted yet. There's a card called SP Little Knight, and just to own one right now, and because you always need one copy of it in your deck at least, to be competitive right now, it's $120 a piece because it's so generic and it does so much in one card.
Yeah.
It's a really broken card. I mean, they do print cards. There's a card like Bonfire that was short printed in Maze of Millennia, which is one of the newer sets, and it was a searcher for the newest best deck, and it made that deck tier 0.
So how do you feel as someone who plays competitive Yu-Gi-Oh if for the situation that if SP Little Knight, you want one of those for your deck, you're going to go compete, you buy one for $120, and then 6 months later SP Little Knight's available in like a starter deck, and so it's all over the place. Like, how do you feel as
somebody
with
who
that?
I'm okay with that because there's a point where power levels is like people who can afford it are going to be your top. I mean that's just it's a pay to win. But there are some cases where somebody will buy the best deck and they will not top. Like I went to Louisville Regional and I had the best deck, did not top. So we'll just throw that out there.
I know in Pokemon they talk about, I hear them on the podcast talk about going to these little regional things and they'll go in with like a good solid deck and sorry, at least sleep.
He's sitting here and he's got his eyes closed and like Thomas talked and then you talked. I see him go.
Just turn his head into like a plant towards the sun.
But he's still got his eyes closed.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm tired, man. Look at that.
Dude, good. You can bow out if you need to. We're almost done. We're getting through. I just want to talk about power creep.
No, I'll sleep like this, brother.
Okay.
Scratches.
Just know this is how much of a professional Lee is. He's here. He's fighting for you to get this podcast episode recorded for you people, for you, Steve.
That's dedication.
That's dedication. All right, but so what they were talking about on the Pokemon podcast is they go to these regionals and they go with these decks, and there's like the meta has like 10 decks that are quote unquote competitive.
Yeah,
and each one has its own, like another deck in that competitive list that kind of counters it. And so they were talking about, when you go to these regional tournaments and you get put in these brackets, it's random. Someone, like Aaron and I may go with the same deck and sit down, and who Aaron gets paired with, he gets paired with people that deck works really well against. And then I end up getting paired with people that...
Or you get paired up in a mirror match.
Yeah, either a mirror match or mirror match means you get paired up against the same deck. Or I get paired up with something that counters my deck, and so I end up, I have a harder time even though we brought the same deck, right?
That's why in Force of Will, I don't know if they do it in Yu-Gi-Oh, you had a sidebar. You had 7 cards that you were allowed to switch during a tournament. You were allowed to switch out on your deck.
Yeah, Pokemon has those. Magic has that. I think every competitive card has that.
Yeah.
Side deck, sideboard.
15 cards.
It's 15 cards.
Yeah,
for most.
To kind of alternate in and out to try to because you play like best of 3.
Yeah.
Right. And these matches. Yeah. So you'll play 3 matches against the person that you're playing against, and you can swap your sideboard, your little extra cards that you brought to swap in and out of your deck and out of there. So what is power creep? When we hear power creep talked about in board games, what is power creep? Oh yeah, all right, Lee.
I'll wake up for that one.
Come on, get up, Peppo. Peppo has a reason. Get around, kids. Talk about power creep.
Let me tell you the story about Curd Ape.
Okay.
Curd Ape was a drop in Magic the Gathering. It was a very powerful card back when Mirage was out, back in the day. But it was all it was a green mana and a red mana, which is for a 1/2. I think that was it, and that's all that it was. And that, but
it cost 1 green mana and 1 red mana.
Yeah, and it was a 1. It had 1 power and 2 life. But now for 2 mana, you get stuff that has crazy abilities, like that, like death that hits enemies or
touch and flying,
death touches and flying. I mean, stuff that you had to pay a lot more mana for back in the game of Magic the Gathering is a lot more powerful now than what used to be. And so old cards are typically not as viable anymore because I guess to make the game fresh, you got to keep giving them new abilities and more abilities. And there's a few that kind of still last. Like Black Lotus is still incredible. Like to have a 0 drop that you can sacrifice and get 3 resources for out the gate. That's a nasty good card.
Yeah, you play a 4-drop on turn 1. That's insane.
That's nuts.
Thomas was talking about with some of the older cards, like the older creatures are pretty crappy.
Yes,
but some of the older cards, like the older events and spells, didn't have any limitation to them. That gets kind of worked in now with the more powerful.
I don't think any of them in like the first like the first 5 sets of Yu-Gi-Oh! But I don't think there was really many.
They didn't think about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a cool card. Let's play it. Good luck, everybody else.
So apparently mana, I just looked up some examples of power creep. Magic apparently has one called Mortality Spear. It costs 2, a red, and a green. But the spell costs 2 less if you cast it to gain the life this turn. And it destroys a non-land permanent.
Good lord.
For basically just a red and a green.
So you're paying to just kill one of somebody's card.
Choose a permanent.
In contrast, the
and
first
permanent's
thing,
what? Any card, pretty much any card that's on the table that's not a land.
Yeah. In contrast, there was a 3-cost card. It was 2 black and 1 called Murder in some of the original sets, and it's just destroy a creature. It won't hit artifacts.
It was 3 costs, but that 2.
It won't hit anything else. It'll just hit a creature.
Well, that's a terror. 1 black, 1 white, or 1 black, 1 manaless or whatever, or colorless. Is like destroy target non-blight, non-artifact creature, and so you see them like removing some of those restrictions on these kills.
Go for the throat.
Yeah,
is that one of those two?
Yeah, that's the name of that one. I think. Then there's a Doomblade, which is like destroy target non-blight creature.
Yeah, there's some significant and so power creep. What we mean by power creep is just as new cards release, as new sets release for these games, they just inevitably, the new stuff starts getting more powerful because there's only so much you can do with some of this stuff before it's samey, right?
That's
and
great.
I feel like it's inevitable a little bit of power creep. I mean, especially in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, where they have the entire set out to incentivize people to buy new stuff. If they can compete with older stuff, you have to make the new stuff better.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot to do that.
Yeah, and I do have another example of power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh! Too.
Okay.
For example, many people know about the card Trap Hole.
I don't.
So it's a trap card that says whenever your opponent summons a monster that has 1,500 or more attack, you flip it and it goes to the graveyard. It destroys it. Well, now they're like, for example, the one of the most recent trap holes is like a Gravekeeper's Trap Hole. It flips it face down in defense, and then your opponent takes 2,000 damage. So it's just like, and it can't change its battle
How much
position.
life does everybody have in Yu-Gi-Oh?
8K,
I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's 8K in Yu-Gi-Oh. It used to
Yeah,
be
8,000 life in Yu-Gi-Oh.
It used to be
does
4,000, but they changed it over the years where
Okay.
power kept just creeping on.
Real
it's hard.
quick, I was wrong about Curd Ape. It was 1 red drop, and he gets +1/+2 if you have a forest in play. It's a 1/1.
Oh,
But still,
that's still really good.
That's one cost that could potentially be a
2/3.
2/3.
Which is pretty
Yeah,
solid.
2 attack, 3 life.
Value.
Okay. So power creep is a real concern. Power creep happens in everything. It's not just a TCG thing. We see it in Marvel Champions. Power creep is a real thing.
I mean, you see it in like just
The
video
LCG,
games,
yeah.
and especially phone games,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Lord.
gotcha games.
Well, gotcha games that are intentional, though.
We're approaching our hour and a half mark. I want to talk about one other thing. I'm not going to worry about why is it so hard for another game to gain traction.
Sure.
Big three, because they're the big three. That's why.
Yeah.
So just, are they worth it? So there are now, so all of these games that we're talking about are physical games.
Mhm.
Some of them I think all 3 of them have a digital counterpart.
They do.
Have a digital part to them where I know you can play Pokemon TCG online, and later on this year there's Pokemon TCG Pocket that's coming out.
MTG has Arena. Yu-Gi-Oh has several different ones, but the main one is Master Duel. Master Duel's the big one right now. That's where you can go to like national tournaments for it now.
Yeah. But you still pay money. So they're free to play, right? They're free
Yeah.
to play. All these games are free to play, but you still pay money for digital booster packs.
You can, yes.
Yeah.
You can buy gems to then, but it's like a gotcha game,
you're
like you
paying
said.
money for a digital card here that
You can't trade.
Yep.
Some of them you can. So I know in the original Pokemon TCG Online, you could trade.
Okay.
You could trade with. I mean, you were trading to someone else's digital card, right? But you can trade on that, but it's a digital card. right? Like you don't physically have your card. You're putting that money in there. If the servers go down, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
To show for
You
that.
can't smell that new cardboard smell.
Now they're usually cheaper, right? Like you're paying significantly less, and sometimes you are. But so what do we think about the digital versus physical? And then there's also other TCGs in the digital marketplace. Hearthstone from Blizzard is massive digital TCG. Marvel Snap came out that I played a lot into, and I won't confirm nor deny if I put some money into Marvel Snap. But Marvel Snap is technically a TCG that was the biggest. What was it? It was the highest selling digital TCG on the market when it came out. And then Gwent, the
Witcher one,
the Witcher TCG.
No, the Renda Gwent.
Yeah. So I mean, what do we think about digital versus physical card games?
I'm physical always.
Personally,
It's like the whole
games, TCGs, any board game. I like having physical things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just maybe a sensory issue, but
I think for me it kind of varies, because if you're trying to get into Yu-Gi-Oh, it is extremely hard to just go outright. It's like, oh, I really see the deck that I really want to play, but that deck's going to be like $1,000 to play. For example, that Snake Eye deck I was talking to you guys about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On there you could spend, well, really you have those gems that they give you. They give you like almost 10K gems right off the rip, and it's like 1,000 to buy 10 packs.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to buy 100 packs, and there's specific packs that are aimed towards that one thing that you want to do, that you want to buy. So
they got the line out there, and
they
you're
do.
just following that lure, Thomas.
Yeah.
Just swimming against it. It looks like a real card.
hook, line, and sucker.
Well, it does save money too, though, in terms of like actually playing competitive tournaments. Like if you want to go to a regional, Konami's is like 25 a regional or 25 a YCS or a championship series tournament. Those are big, and those cost a little bit of money. You gotta tack in travel. With Master Duel, if you want to do a big tournament, you could just do that at the house at your computer.
Yeah. I mean, that's
for ease of access. I understand why people do it. I just have a preference to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to spend money on it. I'm going to do that. Now, Marvel Snap, I will say I've put money on it. And I like Marvel Snap in that you can't buy cards in Marvel Snap.
Mm-hmm.
You only get new cards by playing. And and when it pairs you with somebody, you are guaranteed to have the same like tier of cards as the person you're playing against.
Yeah.
And then as you move up and you unlock more, it will move you up through tiers. That's cool. So you cannot, quote unquote, pay to win.
That's right.
For the most part.
I have a big respect for that game, because if you guys know who originally made Marvel Snap, it was the original person on the dev team for Hearthstone.
Yep.
Ben Brode.
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben Brode is an awesome guy, from what I understand, because he's on a lot of like MTG Commander channels. The Commander at Home, there's like a bunch of them out there.
I actually learned that today.
Yeah. Ben Brode was and Hearthstone. I loved Hearthstone. I never spent any money on Hearthstone, but you can play Hearthstone completely free, and it's and they're only digital. Hearthstone and Marvel Snap, so there's no physical component with Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and I think there may be a couple others, but you have that alternative to go physical. And I think I would always choose the alternative. But yeah, I like Hearthstone too, and they can do stuff that you can't do with a physical card game, right? You can, like, they can make the characters come alive and actually shoot their spells and do stuff like that.
Hearthstone,
like animations and stuff with that. Yeah,
you get some pretty animations. There's just something about picking up a deck of cards and shuffling.
Oh, 110%. Yeah, card
that's
is my favorite.
with Hearthstone, man. It's like I always thought, man, that game looks so cool. I played a couple rounds of it. Marvel Snap, I played a couple rounds. Like, these are cool, but I'm like 10 times more likely to play a physical deck of cards.
110%.
Yeah.
So here's our final thought. Are these worth getting into? Like, would you recommend, if someone said, "Hey, I want a game to get into. I want a game to play," would you recommend a TCG? Do you think the barrier for entry is low enough, or for someone to say, "Hey, yeah, go pick up a starter deck and get into them. They're fun."
I think that kind of lays upon the person wanting to get into the card game, because if somebody has the funds to do so, then by all means, if it's something that you really want to do, get into that card game. But if it's going to put you in a financial bind, don't do it. That's one of the main things that a lot of people don't have a lot of restraint when it comes to buying cardboard.
My answer would probably be, do you want to play competitive?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let me rephrase the question. If someone said I'm looking to get into it casually versus competitively,
Absolutely.
What's your advice to someone in those
Casually.
Casually,
I love
Casually do whatever.
Yeah.
The only game I ever played competitive was Force Wheel, and I kind of wish I didn't. To be honest, but
competitively, that's a whole nother breed though. Like competitive is hard. There's a lot of time and a lot of stuff that you have.
First question, whenever they ask that, is, do you like to gamble?
Do you have a problem with gambling?
You have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that gets me with it is I have trouble recommending that even as a competitive thing because it is so much pay to win. Man.
Yeah.
Like that. And even if you have the money, like you same thing you guys talked about a moment ago, you show up at a tournament and somebody has a mirror deck or something like that, and you go, "Oh, bad luck," you know.
Yeah.
So I have trouble recommending it, but the nostalgia in me is like, "Yeah, buddy, play some Magic. You're gonna love it." But it's like then you're not going to. You're going to have highs and lows with everything else.
So my buddies call it a skill issue.
Yeah.
You can't draw the out.
My advice would be just to hopefully they understand what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Like some people will go out. Star Wars Unlimited is a new TCG.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars Unlimited is a new one. It's
yeah.
kind of taken off by Fantasy Flight Games. It looks neat. I will never buy a pack of it, but it looks pretty cool. So if you like Star Wars, there's a TCG for that. There used to be another one and it fell out. And now there's a new one. It's just like understand like there is a level of randomness to this, and if you like that bit of randomness in your competition where you can plan and plan and plan, but if the heart of the cards isn't with you, you're gonna top deck 50 mana, and that's all you're getting.
You say randomness, I say it's essentially luck.
Yeah.
It's
Now you
all
can
about
build
luck.
to try to curb that a little bit, but still, you have to get those cards. You have to draw. There's an aspect of that, and I think that drives a lot of this for some people. Mm-hmm. That kind of rush of, I hit my win condition. I got my wombo combo in my hand. Yeah. I'm ready to go. Like,
and yet I've seen people flip tables.
110%. Like that pendulum swings both ways. But yeah. So I just there's some randomness to this, but if that's what you're into, opening packs is fun. Pulling out shiny cards is really, really fun.
Yeah, educate yourself. That's probably the best advice.
Yeah, educate yourself.
Hopefully we've helped.
Yeah, hopefully. And we're going to... So check the show notes. I'm going to put some links down there if I can listen through and remember what I said I was going to link to. But that's pretty much, I think, all we got to say. Anybody want to add anything else before we start doing our closing stuff?
I guess I thank you again for having me on. Do you mind if I do a brief shout out for the channel?
I'm going to do that.
Oh, okay.
We're going to get to that in a second. You shut up.
Okay.
Thomas, who's the strongest Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah.
Who's the strongest Yu-Gi-Oh? Like card or
No, who's the strongest
Who's
Yu-Gi-Oh?
the strongest question?
Come on.
Why are you dodging the question? Why are you dodging the question, Tom?
So what's the strong? Yes.
All right, you've heard it here.
All right, you heard it here.
I think it's Bandit Keith.
Bandit Keith.
I like Kaiba. That's a Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Is that a Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's from the
It depends on your
you
term
go.
of Yu-Gi-Oh.
I've never even watched the anime. Like I have no idea. I just know that do.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Chapter 0.
Okay. No. Oh, apparently the Yu-Gi-Oh manga is like super friggin' dark.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just gonna throw that out there. You want something to get sad about, I guess, or
It's
watch
not really
somebody
sad.
blow up?
It's just one of those. It's like,
Morbid.
why?
The Yu-Gi-Oh manga, go look it up and read it. Yeah. Okay. So that's it for talking about trading card games. So we've been the Hills Have Nerds. Thomas, we thank you very much for sitting around the round table of nerddom and talking about these colorful cardboard pieces with us. Where can the people find you if they want to talk to you? If they want to come talk to Thomas and get some Yu-Gi-Oh expertise, where can people find you on the internet?
Sure. You all can find me on YouTube at TRI-CARD Games or Tricard Games on YouTube. I'm on Twitter as well. I have a link tree on my channel, so you can find all my other facets of social media that I have. And if you guys do play Dueling Book or one of the other simulators that we play online, my name is Tricard Tom on there.
You have a Discord too, right?
Oh yeah, I've also got
Shout out the Discord.
Yeah. The Discord is usually.
See, he wasn't even going to do that. I remember that one.
Yeah, thank you. So I do have a Discord. It's under some of my channels. Just join as soon as you hit the link. It'll be good to go, and you'll be in the Discord server. And just kind of contact me if you guys want to play any matches on Dueling Book or any sort of simulator, or if you're in the area, I'd be more than happy to play some games at the local friendly game store.
All right. Lee, where can the good people find you?
Asleep.
Yeah. I'd be in bed.
You get out of my house.
Taking a nappy nap.
I'll be on Aaron's couch for a week. Twitch.tv at Pixel Bro Lee, Instagram at Pixel Bro Lee, YouTube at Pixel Bro Lee, TikTok at Pixel Bro Lee, any social media except for Twitter at Pixel Bro Lee.
Twitter is a cesspit.
Check
We're all
out
a
YouTube.
cesspit.
Check out Lee's YouTube. There's all kinds of awesome retro gaming stuff. Watch him stream on Twitch. Look at him on Instagram. Whatever the hell else he said he does. He does all kinds of stuff, and it's great content.
I'm sleeping.
Sleepy boy.
Do a sleep stream.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's where I watch Lee at in his bed.
Come watch Lee sleep.
I like to watch you while you sleep.
Find out what Lee smells like while he sleeps.
I mean, it's not good.
It's not great. It's actually causing strife in his marriage.
I can't smell. It's fine.
If you don't know how true that was.
I can't smell. It's alright. It doesn't bother me.
I think
Partner.
I think I know what you smell like while you sleep's the tagline for this episode. Okay, so we have been the Hills Have Nerds. Come on our Facebook. Search Facebook for the Hills Have Nerds. Come on our Facebook. Hang out with us. Tell us what you thought about the show. Leave a review. We're gonna we'll read it out loud like we did Poor Steve's, and talk about it and do all that great stuff. Message us. Email us at hillshavenerds@gmail.com. Give us, what TCGs do you like to play? What CCGs do you like to play? What LCGs do you like to play? What card games do you like to play? Did you like the episode? Give us some feedback on it. Let us know what we were wrong about, what we were correct about. Let us know how much of a goblin Aaron is. Whatever you want to do. But come on our Facebook. Check us out. Send us an email. Come hang out and give us some feedback and talk to us. We post all kinds of new little updates and what we're doing through the day and games we're playing and so on and so forth on the Facebook, as well as like little polls and trivia and things like that. We like to interact with people. So come hang out, drop us a line. And with that, I think we're done.
Stay nerdy.